The convoy rolled into forward operating Base Copper Canyon just as the sun turned the Iraqi desert into molten copper. Three dust-caked Humvees grinding through the wire, past sandbag walls and concrete barriers, past soldiers who looked up with eyes that had seen too much and felt too little. In the third vehicle, Sergeant Maya Reeves sat perfectly still. 29 years old, 5'6", 140 pounds soaking wet, brown hair pulled back in a regulation bun so tight it could have been painted on, gray eyes the color of winter storm clouds. She wore her uniform like a second skin, every crease perfect, every line exact. She had been in that metal box for 17 hours. The heat had cooked her. The dust had invaded every pore. Her back ached from the ballistic plate. Her legs had gone numb 2 hours ago. She didn't move, didn't stretch, didn't complain. She just watched. Her eyes tracked the perimeter with the methodical precision of a woman cataloging threats. Guard towers, fields of fire, dead zones. The western wire caught her attention. A single strand of concertina. No secondary barrier, no minefield markers. 200 meters from the nearest guard post, weak point. The tactical assessment came automatically, like breathing, like her heart beating. She couldn't turn it off even if she wanted to, and she had stopped wanting to a long time ago. The convoy lurched to a stop at the motor pool. Soldiers dismounted, stretched, complained about the heat and the dust and the endless goddamn sand. Maya stepped down from the Humvee with movements that were economical, precise. She shouldered her duffel like it weighed nothing, adjusted her cover, scanned her surroundings one more time. A corporal approached with a clipboard, young, maybe 22, sunburned and trying too hard to look professional. Sergeant Reeves. That's right. You're expected at HQ. Colonel wants to see all new arrivals. Lead the way. They walked in silence, past rows of tan, prefab buildings that all looked exactly the same, past soldiers who glanced at her once and then looked away. New meat, another cog in the machine. Nothing special. Good. Stay invisible. Complete the mission. Get home to Hannah. The thought of her sister hit like it always did, a flash of warmth in the cold machinery of her mind. Hannah, 26 years old, teaching kindergarten in San Diego. Bright and alive and innocent of the shadows that Maya walked through. Safe because Maya stayed dead. The headquarters building loomed ahead. Plywood and sandbags trying to look official. Maya followed the corporal inside, into the air-conditioned dimness, into the smell of coffee and stale sweat in military bureaucracy. Wait here. She waited. Through a half-open door, she could see into the Tactical Operations Center. Maps covered the walls, red circles and blue squares and black arrows. The eternal chess game of war reduced to dry erase marker on laminated paper. A man stood with his back to the door, tall, ramrod straight despite the gray hair, hands clasped behind his back in a posture that spoke of decades of command. Colonel James Hartley. Maya had memorized his file before she ever stepped foot on this base. 64 years old, enlisted at 18, commissioned at 23, 3 combat tours, Gulf War, Iraq, Afghanistan, a silver star he never talked about, a daughter who died 3 years ago in a training accident. He turned slightly, just enough for her to see his profile. The grief lived in the lines around his eyes, the way his jaw set when he thought no one was looking. The photograph on his desk of a young woman in ACU camouflage, smiling, forever 24. Jennifer Hartley, Captain, Fort Benning, parachute malfunction, dead before the medics could even reach her. Maya looked away. Grief was a luxury she couldn't afford. The corporal returned. Colonel will see you now. She walked into the TOC, came to attention, saluted with mechanical precision. Hartley returned the salute without looking at her directly. His eyes were on a file folder. Her file, the sanitized version that showed nothing but a competent logistics specialist with a spotless record and not a single hint of the truth. Sergeant Reeves, welcome to FOB Copper Canyon. Thank you, sir. You're assigned to Supply Depot Management. Western Sector. Sergeant Garrison will brief you on your duties. Yes, sir. Dismissed. She saluted again, turned on her heel, walked out. Behind her through the door, she couldn't quite see Colonel James Hartley stood at the window, watching her cross the compound. Frowning? Something about the way she moved, the perfect posture that went beyond military bearing, the situational awareness that had her scanning rooftops and corners and shadows even in the middle of a secure base. He picked up the phone, dialed an internal extension. Major Foster, run a background check on the new logistics sergeant. Quietly. He hung up, looked at Maya Reeves' file again. Too clean, too perfect, too much like someone trying very hard to be invisible. He had spent 30 years learning to trust his instincts, and his instincts were screaming. The supply depot sat on the western edge of the fob like an afterthought. 6 shipping containers arranged in 2 rows, pallets of supplies stacked between them, everything covered in the fine powder of Iraqi dust that got into everything and stayed there. Sergeant Wade Garrison owned this little kingdom. 38 years old, 6'2", 230 pounds of muscle slowly turning to fat, a ranger tab on his shoulder that he touched too often, like a talisman, like proof he used to be someone. He stood in the shade of a container, arms crossed, watching the new logistics sergeant approach. A woman. Of course. They kept sending him women, RMs who couldn't hack it on the line, desk jockeys playing soldier, coming out here to check boxes and collect their combat pay and go home to tell everyone how they served. He hated them all equally. This one looked like every other admin type he'd ever seen. Small, neat, moving with that careful precision that screamed office worker. Probably couldn't even do 10 pull-ups. She stopped in front of him, didn't salute. This wasn't a parade ground. Sergeant Garrison, I'm Sergeant Reeves, reporting for duty. Her voice was flat, professional, completely without inflection. It annoyed him immediately. Welcome to the glamorous world of supply management. He waved a hand at the containers. This is your empire. 6 containers of stuff nobody needs. Your job is to keep track of it. Think you can handle that? Yes, Sergeant. Good, because I've got actual work to do. Unlike some people, I don't get to hide in the rear counting olays. She didn't react, didn't flinch, just looked at him with those flat gray eyes. It made him angrier. Well, you gonna stand there all day, or you gonna start working? I'd like to review the current inventory system first, understand the process before I change anything. There is no system. It's supplies. They come in, they go out, we write it down. That's it. I see. She moved past him, started examining the containers, opening doors, looking inside. Her movements were quick, efficient, like she was taking a mental photograph of everything. Garrison watched her, waiting for her to realize she was in over her head, waiting for the questions, the confusion, the inevitable admission that she needed help. It didn't come. She pulled out a notebook, started writing. Serial numbers, quantities, conditions. Her handwriting was small and precise. She worked in silence, completely focused. 20 minutes passed. Garrison's anger slowly shifted to something else. Confusion. Because she wasn't asking for help. She wasn't struggling. She was just working. After 30 minutes, she pulled out a small tablet computer, started entering data, creating spreadsheets, building some kind of database. What the hell are you doing? Creating an inventory management system. Digital primary with physical backup tags. Cross-referenced by category serial number and container location. It'll reduce search time by approximately 60% and flag discrepancies automatically. She said it without looking up, still typing. We don't need that. Yes, Sergeant. She kept working anyway. By the time the sun reached its zenith, the depot looked different. The heavy ammunition crates were now accessible from the main pathway. The medical supplies were properly climate-controlled in the shaded containers. Everything was labeled, tagged, cataloged. She had reorganized the entire depot in less than 2 hours. Garrison stared at the transformation, at the neat rows, at the color-coded labels, at the efficiency that made his previous system look like a kindergarten project. She was making him look incompetent in his own depot. Corporal Jake Mitchell wandered over, young, eager, still stupid enough to think the Army cared about him. Wow, Sarge. Looks different. Garrison's jaw clenched. Yeah, different. She's pretty good, huh? She's making extra work for no reason. We had a system. Did we, though? Garrison shot him a look that could melt steel. Mitchell shut up fast, knew better than to push it. Maya Reeves emerged from the last container, made a final note in her tablet, looked up at Garrison with those emotionless gray eyes. Initial inventory complete. I'll have the full report by tomorrow. Nobody asked for a report. Standard operating procedure, Sergeant. She walked past him, back toward the main compound. Her boots barely stirred the dust. Garrison watched her go, his hands slowly curling into fists. Who the fuck does she think she is? Mitchell didn't answer. Knew better. Just watched as his sergeant's face turned red, as the anger built like a pressure cooker with no release valve. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The mess tent at FOB Copper Canyon was a cathedral of chaos. 200 soldiers crammed into a space meant for half that. Metal trays clattering, boots scraping on plywood. The smell of overcooked chicken and industrial-strength coffee, and the particular funk of men who worked in 100-degree heat all day. The noise was constant, a wall of sound, laughter and curses, and the low rumble of 100 conversations happening at once. Maya Reeves sat alone in the corner. She ate with methodical precision. Fork to tray, food to mouth, chew, swallow, repeat. Her eyes were focused on nothing, her mind somewhere else entirely. She didn't participate in the loud stories, didn't laugh at the crude jokes. She was a ghost at their feast, a silence in their symphony of noise. And Sergeant Wade Garrison noticed. He sat 3 tables over, surrounded by his crew. Corporal Jake Mitchell on his left, Specialist Carlos Diaz on his right, 2 other soldiers whose names didn't matter. His audience, his hyenas. He'd been drinking, not alcohol. The fob was dry, but energy drinks laced with enough caffeine to make his hands shake. 3 purple cans of chemical courage sitting empty in front of him. The anger from the depot had been building all day, festering, growing teeth. That woman, that Remph, making him look bad, showing him up, acting like she was better than him. He watched her eat, the small, precise movements, the complete lack of acknowledgement of the world around her, like she was too good for them, like she was too good for him. Look at her, he said loudly, making sure his voice carried. The new quartermaster. All by herself. Must be lonely up there on that pedestal. His crew laughed, the forced laughter of subordinates who knew which way the wind was blowing. Maya didn't react, didn't even look up. That made it worse. Gernhall stood, his chair scraped loud across the plywood. The conversations around him faltered, died. Soldiers sensed blood in the water, turned to watch. He walked toward her table. His crew followed, like pilot fish following a shark. The mess tent quieted, not silent, just waiting. Garrison stopped at her table, loomed over her, all 6'2" and 230 pounds of him. His shadow fell across her tray. Well, look what we have here. His voice was too loud, theatrical, playing to the crowd. The new quartermaster. Everything to your liking, Sergeant. The chicken, not too dry for your delicate palate. Maya continued eating, 1 spoonful of corn, brought it to her mouth, chewed. Her complete lack of reaction was gasoline on fire. Hey, Garrison leaned closer. I'm talking to you. She swallowed, set down her spoon, looked up at him with those flat gray eyes, said nothing, just looked. Mitchell shifted uncomfortably. Something was wrong. The way she looked at Garrison wasn't fear, wasn't even anger. It was assessment, cold, clinical, like she was measuring him for a coffin. Cat got your tongue, Garrison's voice rose another notch. Or do they not teach you logistics folks how to talk to real soldiers? The tent was almost silent now. 40 soldiers watching, waiting to see what happened when the bull met the matador. Garrison held a large cup of purple sports drink, Gatorade, grape-flavored, sweating condensation in the heat. He held it over her, made a show of it, made sure everyone could see. You know, a little respect goes a long way out here. He shifted his weight, made it look accidental. His boot caught the leg of the empty chair beside her. The cup tilted. A cascade of ice-cold purple liquid sloshed down over Maya's head. It ran through her tightly pinned hair, dripped down her forehead, traced cold lines down her neck, soaked into the collar of her uniform. purple stains spreading across the tan fabric. The mess tent went dead silent, every eye locked on the small woman in the corner, dripping, humiliated. Diaz winced. Mitchell looked at his boots. The other soldiers in Garrison's crew suddenly found the ceiling very interesting, but Garrison threw his head back and laughed, a harsh barking sound that echoed in the sudden quiet. Clumsy me. He grinned at the watching crowd. Guess you'll need to requisition yourself a new shirt, Sergeant. Hope you know the right forms to fill out. More laughter, forced, uncomfortable, but laughter nonetheless. Maya sat perfectly still. The purple liquid dripped from her hair, ran down her face, pooled on the table. She didn't wipe it away, didn't scream, didn't curse. She simply set her spoon down on the tray with a soft, deliberate click. The sound was unnervingly loud in the sudden quiet. 3 seconds passed. 4, 5. Then she stood. She moved not with anger, but with a fluid economy that made Mitchell's skin crawl, like watching a machine power on, like watching something predatory wake up. Her eyes lifted to meet Garrison's. They were flat, empty of emotion, like chips of stone, like windows into nothing. Garrison's laughter died in his throat. He had expected tears, or fury, or humiliation, something he could mock, something he could feed on. This cold stillness was something else entirely. What's the matter, Sergeant? His voice had lost some of its edge. You got a problem. Maya didn't answer with words. Her left hand shot out. Not a punch, an open palm strike. Precise, surgical. It connected with the lateral side of Garrison's knee, the medial collateral ligament, the exact pressure point where the joint was weakest. It wasn't a hard blow, but it was perfectly placed. His leg buckled with a surprised grunt. His massive frame dipped forward, off balance, arms windmilling. Her right hand moved in a blur, knuckles held in a tight, precise formation. Extended second knuckle leading. The Phoenix eye fist, a pressure point strike taught only to the most advanced operators. It connected with the vagus nerve just below his ear, the carotid sinus, the bundle of nerves that controlled blood pressure and consciousness. Surgical precision. There was a soft, wet thud. Sergeant Wade Garrison's eyes rolled back in his head, the pupils disappearing into white. His entire body went completely limp, every muscle releasing at once. 230 pounds of unconscious infantry sergeant collapsed onto the plywood floor like a felled tree. The sound of his body hitting the deck echoed through the silent tent, out cold before he even landed. Maya stood over him, the purple drink still dripping from the ends of her hair onto his upturned face. She looked down at him with that same unchanged expression. Clinical, detached. Then she turned and walked out of the mess tent. Her boots were silent on the plywood. She didn't look back, didn't acknowledge the stunned silence, didn't acknowledge anything. Just walked. Left behind a fallen giant and 40 witnesses who couldn't quite process what they had just seen. In the doorway, unnoticed by anyone, Colonel James Hartley stood frozen. He had arrived 30 seconds before the drink spilled, had watched the entire thing unfold. His hands were clenched white-knuckle tight at his sides. That strike, that technique, he knew it, had seen it exactly once before, in a classified training course at Fort Bragg in 2004. SEER Level 3, Resistance and Escape for Tier 1 Operators. The vagus nerve strike, the Phoenix eye fist, techniques that took years to master, techniques that weren't taught to logistics sergeants, techniques that could kill if applied with just slightly more force. Hartley's eyes tracked Maya Reeves as she disappeared into the evening darkness, then dropped to Garrison, who was just starting to groan, coming back to consciousness. A purple bruise already blooming below his ear. Major Foster appeared at Hartley's elbow, staring at the scene with wide eyes. Sir, what just happened? Hartley's voice was very quiet, very controlled. Get me that background check. Now. Sir, I'm still waiting for... I don't care what you're waiting for. Hartley's eyes never left the doorway where Maya had vanished. Call in every favor you have. I want to know who that woman really is, and I want to know by morning. Foster swallowed hard, nodded, hurried away. Hartley stood alone in the doorway for a long moment, watching medics attend to Garrison, watching the crowd slowly come back to life. Whispers, speculation, the story already mutating into legend. But all he could see was that strike, that perfect lethal precision. "Who the hell are you, Sergeant Reeves? And what are you doing on my base?" Colonel James Hartley's office was an oasis of frigid, air-conditioned order in the chaos of the FOB. Bare walls except for topographical maps of the surrounding provinces. Red circles, blue arrows. The eternal game of war reduced to dry erase marker. On his desk sat three things: a laptop, a coffee mug that said, "World's okayest dad," that his daughter had given him years ago, and a framed photograph of Captain Jennifer Hartley, 24 years old, forever smiling, forever dead. Hartley sat behind that desk now, hands steepled, face carved from granite. In front of him, standing at parade rest, was Sergeant Maya Reeves. She had showered, changed uniforms. The purple stains were gone. Her hair was still damp, pulled back in that impossibly tight bun. She looked exactly the same as she had that morning, calm, professional, completely unruffled, like she hadn't just knocked unconscious a man twice her size in front of 40 witnesses. To Hartley's right, sitting in a chair and radiating fury, was Sergeant Wade Garrison. A medic had cleared him, but a livid purple bruise was blooming on his jaw. His pride was shattered worse than any bone. He stared at Maya with a mixture of hatred and something he couldn't quite identify, a sliver of fear. Hartley let the silence stretch, a technique he'd learned decades ago. Make them uncomfortable, make them want to fill the void. Maya didn't fill it. She just stood there, breathing slowly, waiting. Of course she did. Finally, Hartley spoke. His voice was low, dangerous, the tone of a man who had commanded soldiers in combat and watched good men die because of mistakes. "I have a report that you assaulted a senior NCO in my mess hall, that you incapacitated him in front of 30 other soldiers." He paused. "Let it hang." Sergeant Garrison is a decorated infantry platoon sergeant, 3 combat tours, a Ranger tab, a man who has served this country for 16 years. Another pause. "You have been in my command for exactly 9 hours. Hartley leaned forward. His eyes were ice. "Explain yourself." Maya's voice was flat, factual, a simple report devoid of emotion. "He poured a drink on my head, sir." Garrison made a sound, half laugh, half snarl. "You'll speak when I tell you to speak, Sergeant." Hartley didn't even look at him. His eyes stayed locked on Maya. "And your response to this minor provocation was to render him unconscious. Is that correct?" "Self-defense, sir." "Self-defense." Hartley's voice was very soft, very cold. "He was aggressive and encroaching on your personal space. That's your defense." "Yes, sir." Hartley opened a file folder on his desk. Maya's personnel file, the sanitized version. He made a show of reading it, though he had memorized every word hours ago. "I've reviewed your record, Sergeant Reeves. Clean, spotless, quartermaster school, supply chain management certifications, efficiency awards. Not a single mark on your disciplinary record. Not a single combat deployment listed." He looked up. His eyes were sharp enough to cut. "You've spent your entire career counting widgets and signing forms. From Fort Bragg to Ramstein, desk jobs, support roles, safe positions far from any combat zone." He closed the folder. "So tell me, Sergeant, where exactly in your supply depot training did they teach you to drop a man twice your size with a single strike?" The silence that followed was absolute. Maya's expression remained neutral, professional, a perfect mask. "Self-defense course, sir. Fort Bragg, standard hand-to-hand combat training." Hartley leaned back in his chair, studied her, looking for the crack, the tell, the lie. He saw nothing. "I taught hand-to-hand combat at Fort Bragg, 2003 through 2005, advanced infantry training. I never saw you in any of my classes." "Different time frame, sir. 2006 course, 2006. Hartley's eyes narrowed. "I see." He knew she was lying, could feel it in his bones, but he couldn't prove it, and that made him angry. Not at her, at himself, for not seeing this coming, for not recognizing the threat. "Sergeant Garrison," Hartley finally turned to the infantryman, "your conduct was unprofessional. Bullying, harassment. Do you deny this?" Garrison's jaw worked. "Sir, it was just a joke." Do you deny this? No, sir. Then you will apologize to Sergeant Reeves for your unprofessional conduct. Garrison's face turned purple, darker than the bruise. Sir, she laid me out in front of. That was an order, Sergeant. The two men locked eyes. A battle of wills. Garrison broke first. He always did. Hartley had 3 decades of command presence. Garrison had anger and shame. Anger and shame always lost. Through clenched teeth, I apologize, Sergeant Reeves. My conduct was unprofessional. Maya nodded once, said nothing. Hartley turned back to her, his eyes calculating, making a decision that he already suspected he would regret. Sergeant Reeves, I'm assigning you to a special project, the Echo 7 Supply Depot, Western Perimeter. It's a series of old shipping containers that haven't been properly cataloged in years. He pulled a piece of paper from his desk, handed it to her. I want a full itemized inventory of every single container, every box, every crate, every bullet. I want it on my desk by 0800 Friday. Understood. It was a punishment, and they both knew it. The Echo 7 depot was a graveyard of forgotten equipment, miles from the main compound, baking under the sun in complete isolation. A tedious, solitary, utterly demeaning task. A clear message: you are not one of us. You are a clerk, and you will be treated as such. Yes, sir. No hesitation, no complaint, just acceptance. Hartley had expected something. Protest, anger, resignation, something human. He got nothing, just that flat professional mask. It unsettled him more than he wanted to admit. Sergeant Garrison, your platoon is on QRF duty for the next week. You will personally check on Sergeant Reeves daily, ensure she has everything she needs. Consider it penance for your unprofessional behavior. Garrison's eyes went wide. Sir, dismissed, both of you. Maya executed a crisp about-face, walked out of the office. Silent footsteps, no backward glance. Garrison stood, his face a mask of fury. Sir, with all due respect. Shut up, Garrison. Hartley didn't even look at him. You embarrassed yourself. You picked a fight with a logistics NCO and got put on your ass like a recruit. Now you're going to do your job. Get out. Garrison stormed out. The door slammed behind him. Hartley sat alone in his office, staring at Maya's file. Too clean, too perfect. Every answer rehearsed, every detail carefully constructed. He picked up the phone, dialed a number he hadn't called in 3 years. It rang 4 times. Then a voice. Gruff, retired, suspicious. This is Webb. Marcus, it's Jim Hartley. A long pause, then, Jim, hell, it's been a while. How's the desert treating you? I need a favor. Of course you do. Nobody calls a retired general just to chat. I need you to check a name for me, quietly, off the books. Another pause. Longer this time. When Webb spoke again, his voice had changed. Become careful. This isn't like you, Jim. What's going on? I have a logistics sergeant on my base. Something's wrong. I can't put my finger on it, but my gut is screaming. Your guts kept you alive for 30 years. What's the name? Sergeant Maya Reeves. The silence that followed was deafening. Hartley heard Webb's breath catch, heard him shift in his chair, the creak of leather, the rustle of movement. When Webb spoke again, his voice was very quiet, very serious. Jim, where did you hear that name? She's in my command, arrived this morning, logistics specialist. Her file is cleaner than a hospital floor, and she just took down one of my infantry sergeants with a precision strike I've only seen in SIR Level 3 training. Jesus Christ, Jim. Webb sounded shaken, actually shaken. Listen to me very carefully. I cannot talk about this name. I cannot discuss anything related to that name. Not on an unsecure line, not ever. Marcus. No, Jim, I'm serious. If she's there, there's a reason way above both our pay grades. Do not interfere. Do not investigate. Just leave her alone. Is she a threat to my soldiers? Webb laughed, a harsh, humorless sound. Only if they threaten her first. Trust me on this. Leave her alone. The line went dead. Hartley sat holding the phone, staring at nothing. For the first time in his career, he didn't know what to do. That woman. That small, quiet logistics sergeant who moved like a ghost and struck like lightning. Who was she? He looked at Jennifer's photograph, at his daughter's forever young face, at the smile that had died 3 years ago. I couldn't save you, baby. He spoke to the photograph like he always did when he was alone. But maybe I can keep this one alive, even if I don't understand what she is. He set down the phone, made a decision. He would watch her, protect her if necessary, but he would not interfere, not unless she gave him no choice. Outside his window, the Iraqi sun was setting, painting the desert in shades of blood and copper. And somewhere out there, Sergeant Maya Reeves was walking toward her isolation, toward her punishment, toward the place where everything would go to hell. She just didn't know it yet. Neither did he. The Echo 7 supply depot sat on the western edge of Phoebe Copper Canyon like a forgotten promise. 12 shipping containers arranged in 2 neat rows, rust streaks bleeding down their corrugated sides. Everything baking under the merciless Iraqi sun. Behind the containers, nothing but razor wire and the vast, empty expanse of desert stretching to the horizon. The air shimmered with heat. The only sounds were the distant hum of the base generator and the whisper of wind across sand. Maya Reeves arrived at 0600 the next morning. She carried a ruggedized laptop, a handheld scanner, 2 canteens of water, a determination that ran deeper than bone. She surveyed her kingdom of forgotten things with those flat gray eyes. No expression, no complaint, just assessment. Then she got to work. The first container groaned open with a screech of rusted metal. A blast of superheated stale air rolled out. Inside, stacked to the ceiling, were wooden crates of 7.62mm ammunition, the stencils faded by time and sun and neglect. Maya didn't sigh, didn't curse her luck. She simply pulled out her scanner and started cataloging. Her movements were methodical, precise, almost meditative. Scan the barcode, enter the data, check it twice, move to the next. Her focus was absolute. The heat soaked through her uniform. Sweat ran down her spine. But her pace never wavered. Crate by crate, box by box. She imposed order on chaos. This was her language. Data, logistics, the quiet certainty of numbers. It calmed something in her that could never quite rest. 2 hours passed. 3. The sun climbed higher. The temperature inside the containers reached 120 degrees. She worked through it, hydrated systematically, took breaks only when efficiency demanded it. By 0900, she had completed the first 2 containers, 4,000 rounds of ammunition, cataloged, cross-referenced. Perfect. She was starting on the third when she heard the vehicle, a Humvee rolling across the gravel, engine growling, dust plume trailing behind it. Maya stepped out of the container, squinted against the sun, recognized the driver immediately. Sergeant Wade Garrison. He parked 20 meters away, sat in the vehicle for a long moment, like he was gathering courage or swallowing pride or both. Finally, he climbed out. The bruise on his jaw had darkened overnight, purple bleeding into yellow, a reminder of humiliation that would last a week, maybe longer. He carried a cardboard box, walked toward her slowly. His body language was different. The swagger was gone, replaced by something quieter, more uncertain. Maya waited, hands at her sides, ready for anything. Garrison stopped 3 meters away, set the box on the ground between them, like an offering, like a white flag. "Colonel sent me to check on you." His voice was rough, embarrassed. Maya said nothing, just looked at him with those unreadable eyes. The silence stretched, uncomfortable, heavy with things unsaid. "I brought water, MREs. Figured you might need them out here." He hadn't been ordered to do that. She could see it in his face. This was his idea, his attempt at something approaching apology without actually saying the words. "Thank you." 2 words, flat, professional, but not hostile. Garrison nodded, looked at the containers, at the neat stacks of catalog crates visible through the open door, at the efficiency that made his previous system look like amateur hour. "You don't stop, do you?" It wasn't an accusation, just an observation, maybe even respect. "The job isn't done until it's done." He almost smiled. Almost. "Yeah, I used to think like that, long time ago." Something in his voice made her pause, look at him more carefully, see past the anger and shame to something deeper, something broken. What happened? The question came out before she could stop it, a rare moment of genuine curiosity. Garrison's jaw worked, his hands clenched, unclenched. Fallujah, 2004, house to house. There was a kid running. I almost pulled the trigger, stopped myself just in time. He stared at the desert, seeing something that wasn't there. Been angry ever since. Can't turn it off. Lost my wife, losing my kids. Can't seem to remember who I used to be. Maya understood. She had seen it before, in Vienna, in other operators who came back but left pieces of themselves in the sand. My father, she said quietly, was a SEAL. Gulf War. He taught me something when I was young. Garrison looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time seeing a person instead of a target for his rage. He said, control what you can, let go of what you can't. That's harder than it sounds. Every day. Her voice was soft, human. But you do it anyway, because the alternative is drowning. They stood in silence, two damaged people recognizing damage in each other, a moment of connection across the vast desert of their respective hells. Finally, Garrison nodded. I'll check on you tomorrow, if that's okay. It's okay. He turned to leave, stopped, looked back. For what it's worth, I was wrong yesterday. I've been wrong about a lot of things. Maya didn't answer, just watched him drive away. When the dust settled, she turned back to her work. But something had shifted. Something small but significant. She wasn't completely alone anymore. The afternoon heat reached its peak. Maya worked through it. Container 3, Container 4, medical supplies, communication equipment, the endless inventory of war's logistics. She was deep in Container 5 cataloging night vision equipment when her instincts screamed, being watched. The feeling hit like ice water down her spine. That sixth sense honed by years of operations. The animal awareness that kept operators alive when their eyes and ears failed them. Maya didn't react, didn't spin around or drop into a crouch. She just kept working, kept scanning, kept writing. But her mind went into tactical mode. Distance, direction, threat assessment. She moved to the container entrance, casual, like she was checking something. Her eyes swept the horizon with the systematic precision of a trained observer. There, northwest, 400 meters, the ridgeline, a faint glint, just for a second, sun reflecting off glass or polished metal, an optic, a scope, something watching. She filed the information away, continued her work, but now she was operating on two levels, the surface level of inventory management and the deeper level of counterintelligence. Someone was conducting surveillance, on her specifically, not the base, not the depot, her, professional, military-grade equipment, not a random insurgent with binoculars. The question was why. An hour later, she finished with Container 5, announced over her radio that she was taking a break, walking the perimeter, standard procedure for someone working in isolation. But what she actually did was investigate. She moved to the western wire, stayed low, used the containers as cover. Her movements were casual to any observer, but calculated to give her access to the area below the ridgeline. The footprints were fresh, maybe 8 hours old, size 11 boots, military issue, Oakley tactical pattern, American contractor standard. She followed the prints to an overwatch position, a natural depression in the earth that gave perfect line of sight to the depot. To her, the evidence was damning. Cigarette butts, Marlboro Reds, American brand, energy bar wrapper, Cliff Bar, sold on every U.S. base, tripod impressions in the dust, deep, stable, professional setup, not a rifle tripod, a spotting scope. This was observation, not assassination. They were gathering intelligence on her movements, on her routine, which meant they knew something or suspected something. Maya's mind raced through possibilities. Her cover was deep, bulletproof. 3 years of careful construction. But no cover was perfect. Somewhere, somehow, someone had made a connection. And if they knew about Raven, they might know about Hannah. That thought cut deeper than any knife. She couldn't run. Running would expose her sister, make her vulnerable. The whole point of staying dead was to keep Hannah safe. Anonymous. Off the board. No, she couldn't run. She would have to eliminate the threat. Here, now, before it metastasized. Maya walked back to the depot. Her face showed nothing. But inside, Raven was waking up, stretching, preparing for what came next. She had work to do, inventory to finish, and a trap to prepare. Container 9 sat at the end of the second row, isolated, slightly apart from the others. The lock was newer than the rest. Someone had been here recently. Maya opened it with her master key. The door swung wide. Darkness inside. She flicked on her flashlight, swept the beam across the interior, and froze. 6 crates. Large, heavy, not on any manifest she had seen. Stenciled across each crate in faded military lettering, CTF 147. Classified do not log. Her training kicked in automatically. CTF stood for Combined Task Force, but CTF 147 didn't exist. She had memorized every unit designation in theater. This one was fake. Maya approached carefully, checked for booby traps, found none, opened the first crate. Inside, nestled in foam padding, were 4 GPN VG-18 panoramic night vision goggles. Ground panoramic night vision goggles. The latest generation. $43,000 each. Restricted technology, not standard issue for anyone below special operations. She opened the second crate. Encrypted SATCOM radios. Civilian contractor models. Not military issue. Third crate. 20 pounds of C plastic explosive, remote detonators, commercial grade, not military. Fourth crate. More the same. Maya's mind worked the problem. Serial numbers wrong. Packaging wrong. Chain of custody non-existent. This wasn't military supply chain. This was black market. Someone was running off-book operations through this phobie, using this isolated depot as a dead drop, moving high-value restricted technology to someone. Insurgents. Contractors. Foreign intelligence. She pulled out a small camera. Covert issue. Began photographing everything. Serial numbers. Contents. Packaging. Every detail that might matter later. She was halfway through when she heard footsteps. Boot leather on gravel. Close. Getting closer. Maya pocketed the camera, closed the crate, stepped out of the container like she'd been checking inventory. Colonel Hartley stood 10 meters away, hands clasped behind his back, face unreadable. Working late, Sergeant. Deadline Friday, sir. Staying on schedule. His eyes flicked to her hands, to the dust on her fingers from the crates, to the container behind her. That container, what's in it? Medical supplies, sir, mostly expired. Should probably be disposed of. It was a smooth lie, delivered without hesitation. But Hartley's eyes narrowed slightly. He knew. Couldn't prove it, but knew. Carry on. He turned and walked away. But Maya saw him pause. Look back, study the container, study her. She had a problem, a big one. Hartley was smart, experienced. He was putting pieces together. And when he did, everything would unravel. She needed to move faster, find out who was behind this, shut it down before it shut her down. Maya waited until Hartley was gone, then she slipped back into the container, finished photographing the evidence, closed everything carefully, erased any sign she'd been there. Then she started planning. Whoever was running this operation would come back, would check their cash, would move products soon, probably at night when activity was minimal. She would be ready. That evening, Maya worked until the sun set, cataloged 3 more containers, maintained her cover, played the role of dedicated logistics sergeant. But as darkness fell, she positioned herself in container 3, the one with small arms ammunition, the one with clear sight lines to container 9, the one where she could watch and wait. She settled into a crouch, drew her sidearm, checked the chamber, waited. 2 hours passed. 3. The base settled into its nocturnal rhythm. Guard changes, distant voices, the hum of generators. Then at 2200 hours movement. A vehicle, no lights, rolling slowly toward the depot. A civilian contractor truck, unmarked, moving with purpose. Maya's pulse didn't elevate. Her breathing stayed controlled. She just watched, calculated, prepared. The truck stopped at Container 9. Two men climbed out. One was bearded, American, 40s, moving like someone with military training. The other was the driver, younger, nervous. They opened Container 9, started loading a crate onto the truck bed. Then a third figure appeared, walking from the direction of the TOC, confident, unhurried. Maya's blood ran cold. Major Foster, the executive officer, second in command of the entire FOB. Foster approached the truck, spoke with the bearded man. Maya was too far to hear words, but she saw money exchange hands, saw Foster point to specific crates, saw him check a list. This was bigger than she thought. This was command-level corruption, weapons trafficking from inside the wire. And then Foster said something that made her heart stop. The attack happens tomorrow night. Western perimeter. Make it look like insurgents. Target the woman. The bearded man nodded. The Raven? That's gonna cost extra. Foster waved a hand, dismissive. You'll get your money. Just make sure she's dead. She's seen to Marseille. They knew who she was, what she was, and they were planning to kill her. Maya shifted, just slightly, but the movement made a crate creak. Foster's head snapped around, eyes scanning the darkness. Someone's there. The bearded man pulled a pistol. Where? I don't know. Find them. Maya didn't wait. She broke from cover, sprinted between containers, using darkness and geometry, putting metal between herself and the guns. Behind her shouts, footsteps, the slap of boots on gravel. She ran, not toward the base. Too far, too exposed. She ran toward the one place she knew she might find help, toward Hartley. The headquarters building was dark. Most of the staff had gone to sleep, but lights still glowed from Hartley's office window. The old man working late, as always. Maya burst through the door. No time for protocol, no time for procedure. 3 contractors were already inside, surrounding Hartley. One held him by the arm. The others had weapons drawn. Hartley's eyes met hers, widened. Sergeant, get out! Maya was already moving. Muscle memory. Years of training compressed into seconds of action. The first contractor didn't see her coming. She hit him with a wrist lock. Krav Maga. The pistol clattered from his hand. She snatched it from the air, put 2 rounds into the second contractor's thigh. Non-lethal. They needed witnesses. The third contractor grabbed Hartley, used him as a shield, pressed a gun to the colonel's head. Don't move. Maya froze. Pistol aimed, but no shot. Hartley's body blocked everything vital. Major Foster stepped through the door, calm, collected. A man who thought he controlled the board. Well, this is unfortunate. He looked at Maya with something like admiration, something like respect. Colonel Hartley, I'd like to introduce you to the real Sergeant Reeves. Or should I say Raven the ghost who was supposed to be dead 3 years ago? Hartley's eyes went to Maya, questioning, demanding truth. Is this true? Maya's voice was quiet, steady. Yes, sir. And Foster, selling weapons to contractors, planning an attack tomorrow. Western perimeter, to eliminate me. Foster smiled. She's very good, Colonel. I'll give her that. Found my cash, followed my trails. Almost admirable. But you're both in the way now, and I'm afraid that makes you expendable. He gestured to the contractors. Kill them both. Make it look like an insurgent attack. Simple. Clean. The contractor, holding Hartley, tightened his grip, finger moving to the trigger. Hartley didn't hesitate. Threw his head back, cracked the contractor's nose with his skull, used the moment of shock to drop low, to duck under the man's arm. Maya fired, one shot, surgical, the contractor's shoulder. He dropped screaming. Then she and Hartley were moving, through the door, into the darkness. Behind them shouts, gunfire, the base erupting into chaos. They ran for Maya's vehicle, a beat-up Humvee assigned to depot operations. She vaulted into the driver's seat. Hartley dove in beside her. Can you drive? Yes, sir. Then drive. She did, floored the accelerator. The Humvee lurched forward. Gravel sprang, racing across the compound. Behind them, Foster was shouting into a radio. All units! Sergeant Reeves has gone rogue. She's kidnapped the colonel. Stop that vehicle. A QRF Humvee pulled across their path, blocking the road. Sergeant Wade Garrison stood beside it, rifle raised. Maya hit the brakes, skidded to a stop. Her hand moved to her pistol. Then Garrison lowered his rifle, stepped aside. Sorry, Major, he called into his radio. Vehicle malfunction, I can't pursue. He looked at Maya through the windshield, nodded once. A deliberate choice. Trust over orders. She nodded back, then floored it past him. Where are we going? Hartley demanded. Echo 7. Why there? Only place I've prepared defenses, and they're coming anyway. Hartley stared at her, understanding dawning. You've been expecting an attack since you got here. Western Wire is weakest, sir. Tactically obvious. I'd attack there, too. How did you know? Because that's what I'm trained for. What I've always been trained for. They reached the depot. Maya parked behind the containers, out of sight from the main base. Hartley climbed out, looked at her across the hood. Who are you really, Sergeant Reeves? She met his eyes. No more lies, no more masks. Raven program, sir. Deep cover operative. Officially KIA 2006. Buried at Arlington with full honors. I stayed dead to protect my sister. And Foster knows. He knows. And he's hired contractors to kill me. Tomorrow night, they'll attack the base as a diversion. Hit this position with overwhelming force. Make it look like insurgents. Eliminate the witness. Hartley processed this, his tactical mind working the problem. How many? At least 20, professional, ex-military, well-armed. And we have, Maya looked around the depot, at the 12 containers, at the ammunition and equipment and forgotten weapons of war. We have everything, sir. I've spent 3 days cataloging this depot. I know every bullet, every flare, every weapon. Hartley saw it then, saw the trap she'd been building without even knowing it, saw the tactical mind that had been preparing for battle since the moment she arrived. He almost smiled. What do you need? Time and people I can trust. As if summoned, another vehicle approached. Garrison's Humvee. He climbed out with Jake Mitchell and Carlos Diaz. Sir, Garrison came to attention. I don't know what's happening, but I'm with you. Major Foster is selling weapons, Hartley said flatly. Attack's coming here, tonight. We hold this position or everyone dies to cover up his crimes. Garrison looked at Maya. What do you need? Can you shoot him, ma'am? I'm a ranger. Maya allowed herself a small smile, the first genuine one in days. Then let's go to work. They spread out across the depot. Maya directed them with absolute authority. Hartley yielded command without hesitation. This was her battlefield, her expertise. Mitchell stage M4 rifles here, here, and here. She marked positions on a tactical map. 3 magazines per position, extra ammo in these crates. Diaz pyrotechnics, trip flares in this arc, every 10 meters. I want them blind and disoriented when they hit. Garrison, you're with me on the containers. High ground, overlapping fields of fire. Colonel, your communications. Coordinate with any loyalists you can reach. We need to know when it starts. They worked through the night, staging weapons, setting traps, building a defense that would make Sun Tzu proud. Maya moved between them, checking, adjusting, her mind operating on a tactical level that left them awed. Every position calculated, every angle optimized, every variable accounted for. How do you know all this? Mitchell asked quietly. Maya didn't answer, just kept working. By 0400, they were ready. The depot had transformed from a graveyard of forgotten supplies into a perfectly designed kill zone. Hartley stood beside Maya on a container roof, looking out at their handiwork. This reminds me of Kuwait. Desert storm, outnumbered, low on hope. What happened in Kuwait, sir? A woman saved us. Intelligence officer named Sarah Kane. She saw the pattern everyone else missed, spotted the real attack before it came. He looked at Maya. You remind me of her. Maya's breath caught. Sarah Kane. I know that name. She was brilliant. Saved my unit. Saved my life. I never forgot her. My mentor's mentor, Maya said softly. The legacy passed down. Her protege trained my instructor. the chain of knowledge. Women in the shadows saving soldiers who'd never know their names. They stood in silence, sharing something unspoken, a connection across generations. Then Hartley's radio crackled. Dragon 6, this is Watchtower 2. Multiple contacts. South Gate under heavy fire. East Gate taking RPGs. It's happening, sir. Hartley keyed his mic. Roger, all units, this is Dragon 6. Hold your positions. QRF to South Gate. He looked at Maya. They're hitting the base, just like you said. The south and east are diversions, sir. They're coming here. As if in answer, the western sky lit up, an RPG streaking out of the darkness. It slammed into Guard Post 5 with a ball of orange and black. The explosion echoed across the desert. Then figures emerged from the twilight, moving low and fast. 20, 30, more, coming straight for them. Maya picked up her rifle, checked the chamber, looked at Hartley with those cold gray eyes. Stay alive, sir. That's an order. He almost laughed. That's my line. Not tonight. She moved to the edge of the container, settled into position. The rifle felt like an old friend, like coming home. Behind her, Garrison took his position, Mitchell and Diaz at the sandbag wall, Hartley with the radio, coordinating, directing, doing what colonels did. And Maya became Raven. The logistics sergeant vanished. The carefully constructed cover burned away. What remained was the weapon, the ghost, the thing that had killed in Vienna and survived in Chechnya and haunted the nightmares of people who would never know her name. She watched the enemy advance, counted them, assessed them, recognized the movement patterns of professional soldiers wearing insurgent clothes. They thought they were hunting her. They were wrong. The hunters had become the hunted. And Raven was about to remind them why ghosts should stay buried. Her finger rested on the trigger. Her breathing slowed. Her heart rate dropped. The first enemy soldier stepped into her kill zone. Maya whispered to the darkness, "Come get me," and pulled the trigger. The first shot cracked across the desert like the voice of God. Maya Reeves lay flat on the shipping container roof. The M4 rifle nestled into the pocket of her shoulder. Iron sights only. The optic had shattered 3 days ago in a training accident no one had bothered to report. It didn't matter. She didn't need glass to kill. 200 meters downrange, the enemy point man dropped without a sound. One moment he was gesturing to his team. The next he was a corpse cooling in the sand. The contractors froze. Confusion rippled through their formation. The shot hadn't come from the sandbag wall where Mitchell and Diaz were pinned down. It had come from above. From nowhere. From everywhere. Maya was already moving, rolling to her left, sliding across the corrugated metal, taking up a new position before the echo of her first shot had faded. She acquired her next target through the iron sights, the RPK machine gunner. 220 meters, setting up behind a low berm, the biggest threat to her pinned soldiers. Breath in, half out, slow squeeze. The rifle barked. The gunner's head snapped back. He toppled sideways. The belt-fed weapon silent before it ever fired. Now they knew where she was. A storm of automatic fire hammered the container. 7.62 rounds from AK-47s. 5.56 from stolen M4s. The metal screamed under the onslaught. Dang, 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 dang. A drumbeat of incoming hate. But Maya was gone. Already 3 containers over. Moving like smoke. Like a ghost who refused to stay dead. She popped up on a different rooftop. Fired twice. 2 more contractors down. Disappeared again before they could react. This was her element. The chaos of combat, the clarity of purpose. No politics, no lies. Just the simple mathematics of violence. Kill or be killed. Protect or fail. She chose kill. She chose protect. Always. Down at the sandbag wall, Mitchell's voice cracked with panic. Where the hell is she? I can't see her. Doesn't matter, Garrison's command voice cut through the fear. Suppress the left flank, 3-round bursts, conserve your ammo. The young soldiers obeyed. Found their rhythm. Started fighting instead of just surviving. In the TOC, Hartley coordinated on the radio, calling in what support he could, feeding intelligence, playing his part in this desperate symphony of war. But it was Maya's show. Her battlefield. Her dance. A second fire team tried to flank through the ditch on the north side. Four men moving fast, professional, disciplined, ex-military down to their bones. They triggered the trip flares Maya had planted. Brilliant white magnesium ignited with a hissing roar. The darkness turned to burning noon. The four contractors were caught in the open, their shadows thrown stark and long against the sand. Perfect silhouettes. Maya's rifle spoke 4 times. Crack, 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 crack. 4 precise shots. 4 men fell. The enemy commander somewhere in the darkness screamed orders. Rage and disbelief mixed in equal measure. This wasn't supposed to happen. They were professionals, Tier 1 contractors, the best money could buy. And they were being dismantled by a single woman. The third assault wave tried to adapt. Smoke grenades, suppressive fire, bounding overwatch. All the tactics they'd learned in Fort Benning or Bragg or wherever the Army had trained them before they sold their skills to the highest bidder. But Maya had learned from better teachers, in darker places, where mistakes meant graves in unmarked ground. She fired a flare pistol into the sky. A red starburst bloomed overhead. Ghastly crimson light bathed the entire kill zone. The advancing contractors were painted in hellish color. Every weapon visible, every face exposed. Garrison opened up from his position. Mitchell and Diaz found their courage and joined in. For 30 seconds, the desert was lit by muzzle flash and dying stars and the terrible beauty of combat. When the flare died, 8 more bodies littered the sand. But the enemy wasn't broken. Not yet. Professional soldiers knew that you didn't win by being careful. You won by being relentless. An RPG team set up 200 meters out. The shooter took his time, aimed carefully at the container where Maya had last appeared. She saw the back blast, that split-second warning of white-hot gas venting from the rear of the launcher. No time to run, no time to think. Maya dove between 2 containers, into the narrow gap, her body horizontal, arms covering her head. The rocket-propelled grenade slammed into the container with the force of a freight train. The shaped charge detonated. The metal wall buckled inward, screaming, tearing. The explosive force channeled through the gap where Maya had thrown herself. She felt the shock wave punch her in the chest, felt herself lifted, airborne, weightless for an eternal second. Then she hit the opposite container wall. Her head cracked against corrugated steel with a sound like a baseball bat hitting meat. The world went white, then black, then red. Maya lay crumpled at the base of the container, her ears ringing so loud she couldn't hear her own breathing. Blood in her mouth, her left arm was on fire. She looked down, saw the long gash torn through her sleeve, shrapnel embedded in muscle, blood running dark in the moonlight. Her vision swam, black spots dancing. Concussion, definitely concussion. She tried to push herself up. Her arms wouldn't cooperate. Sent signals that got lost somewhere between brain and muscle. Through the ringing in her ears, she heard footsteps, boots on gravel, the enemy advancing, thinking she was dead, or dying, or too wounded to matter. They were wrong. Maya forced herself to her knees. Every movement was agony. Her ribs screamed, cracked or broken. Her head felt like someone had driven a spike through her skull. But pain was just data, information to be processed and filed away. Not allowed to control, not allowed to win. She had lost her rifle in the blast. It lay somewhere in the debris, unreachable. Her sidearm then. The M9 Beretta on her hip. She drew it with her right hand, her left arm hung useless. The tourniquet she'd improvised from her sleeve was already soaked through. 3 magazines left, 45 rounds. Against how many didn't matter. She would make them count. Maya tore another strip from her sleeve with her teeth, wrapped it tight around the wound, pulled it tighter with her good hand and her teeth until the bleeding slowed to a seep. Field medicine. Brutal and effective. Somewhere in her concussed brain, memories flickered. Training. Vienna. Sarah Vance teaching her to fight through injury. Pain is temporary, Maya. Death is permanent. Choose wisely. Sarah's voice. Dead 3 years. Still teaching. Still guiding. Maya whispered to the ghost. I choose to live. She stood, swayed, caught herself against the container wall, steadied. The footsteps were closer now. 30 seconds away, maybe less. She checked the Beretta, round in the chamber, safety off, good to go. Her hand was steady despite everything, muscle memory overriding the damage. The gun was an extension of her will, and her will was iron. The first contractor rounded the corner, expecting a corpse, finding something worse, finding Raven. Maya put 2 rounds center mass. The man dropped, never even raised his weapon. The second contractor was smarter, came around firing, spraying bullets wild, panicked. Maya sidestepped, calm, precise, put a round through his throat. He went down choking. The third hesitated. Fatal mistake. Maya didn't hesitate. Double tap to the chest. He crumpled. But the fourth was good, very good. Former special forces by the way he moved. He came in low and fast, got inside her reach before she could shoot. 220 pounds of muscle and training slammed into her. They went down together. Rolling, grappling, her injured arm useless, his hands going for her throat. Maya's training took over. Jiu-jitsu, Brazilian ground fighting. Techniques drilled 10,000 times until they became reflex. She trapped his arm, hyperextended the elbow, felt it pop. He screamed, released her throat. Her KA bar knife was on her belt. She drew it with her good hand, drove it up under his ribs, angled toward the heart, twisted. He stiffened, gasped. Blood bubbled from his lips. Maya shoved him off, stood, breathing hard, blood soaking through her makeshift bandages. A fifth contractor appeared, fired his AK from 15 feet, too close to miss, but he was panicked, shooting wild. The round sparked off steel, inches from her head. Maya's last magazine. She fired controlled pairs. 2 rounds to the chest, he dropped. The Beretta's slide locked back, empty. She stood in the narrow canyon between containers. 5 bodies at her feet, blood on her hands, death in her wake. And for the first time in 3 years, Maya Reeves smiled. Not the polite smile of a logistics sergeant, not the professional mask, the feral grin of a predator who remembered what she was. Raven. The silence that followed was profound. The gunfire had stopped. The enemy was regrouping, or retreating, or dead. Maya staggered out from between the containers, into the open. Her vision was blurry, her balance uncertain, but she was alive. Garrison materialized from the darkness. His eyes went wide. Jesus Christ, ma'am, you're hit. We need to get you to... How many left? What? How many enemy left? Garrison looked out at the killing field, at the bodies scattered across the sand. At least 14 down, maybe more. Maybe 5, 6, they're falling back. Not falling back. Maya's voice was flat, certain. Regrouping, they'll come again. Different tactic, they have to. Too much money at stake. You need a medic. I need to finish this. She reloaded her pistol. 1 magazine left, 15 rounds. Her hands shook slightly, concussion making fine motor control difficult. But she managed. Garrison stared at her. This small woman, bleeding, concussed, wounded, still standing, still fighting. Who are you, Darnata? Maya looked at him with those cold gray eyes. I'm the reason they should have stayed home. From the darkness, a voice called out. American accent, educated, calm. Raven, I know you can hear me. Maya and Garrison both froze. My name is James Kruger. I'm the contractor leading this operation. I have 6 men left. You've cost me 14 good operators. Cost me millions in insurance payouts. A pause, then. I'm impressed, truly. But this ends now. You're wounded, outnumbered, out of time. Surrender and I'll make it quick. Keep fighting and I'll make sure your death takes hours. Maya said nothing, just waited. I know about your sister Raven, Hannah, the kindergarten teacher in San Diego. Sweet girl, be ashamed if something happened to her. Every muscle in Maya's body went rigid. Her eyes turned to chips of ice. Her jaw clenched so hard her teeth ached. Garrison saw it, saw the transformation, saw the human part shut down and something else wake up. He just made a mistake, Garrison whispered. Yes, Maya said quietly. He did. She started walking toward the voice, out into the open. limping, bleeding, one arm hanging useless, but moving with absolute purpose. "Sergeant, that's suicide." She didn't answer, just kept walking. James Kruger stepped out from behind a berm, 42 years old, ex-Delta Force, contractor CEO, $2 million in his pocket for one simple kill. He held a 1911 pistol, pointed at the ground, confident, relaxed. Behind him, his remaining 6 contractors spread out, rifles raised, professional spacing, overlapping fields of fire. Maya kept walking, 20 meters, 15, 10. She stopped at 5 meters, close enough to see his eyes, to smell his cologne, to count the gray hairs in his beard. "You made a mistake," she said. Kruger smiled. "Did I? I'm the one with 6 men and superior firepower. You're the one bleeding out. How exactly did I make a mistake? You threatened my sister. And now you die, all of you." Kruger laughed, actually laughed. "You're holding a pistol with one good arm against 7 of us. The math doesn't work in your favor, sweetheart." "Math never does." Maya threw her knife. Her left arm was wounded, but her right was fine. And she'd been throwing knives since she was 12 years old, since her father first put a blade in her hand and told her that weapons were just tools, that the real weapon was her mind. The KA bar buried itself in Kruger's gun hand, through the meat between thumb and forefinger. The 1911 clattered to the sand. He screamed, staggered back. Maya rushed forward, tackled him. They went down together. 2 trained killers grappling in the dust. Kruger was bigger, stronger, better fed, better rested. Not wounded or concussed or bleeding from a dozen injuries. But Maya was angrier. She retrieved the knife from his hand. He howled, tried to throw her off. She rode him like a bronco, drove her knee into his solar plexus, felt ribs crack. His 6 contractors were shouting, trying to get a clear shot. But she and Kruger were tangled together, moving too fast. They couldn't risk hitting their own man. Maya didn't care about tactics anymore, didn't care about survival. She just cared about making this man pay for threatening Hannah, for putting her sister's name in his mouth, for thinking that love was weakness he could exploit. She stabbed him. Kidney, liver, anywhere soft and vital. The knife rose and fell, rose and fell. Kruger's screams turned to gurgles, his blood hot on her hands. He tried to speak, to beg, to bargain. Maya leaned close, whispered in his ear, "You should have charged more." She cut his throat. His body went limp beneath her, eyes staring at nothing, dead before his brain caught up to the fact. Maya stood, swaying, covered in blood, her knife dripping. She looked at the 6 remaining contractors. They stared back, at this small woman who had just killed their leader with her bare hands, this bleeding wounded ghost who wouldn't die. One by one they lowered their weapons, turned, ran, disappeared into the desert darkness like smoke. Maya watched them go, didn't pursue, couldn't pursue. She had nothing left. She took one step, then another. Her legs gave out. She collapsed to her knees in the sand. Maya, Garrison was there, catching her before she fell, lowering her gently. His hands were shaking, his face pale. "Stay with me, ma'am. Medic. We need a medic." Maya's vision was graying at the edges, the adrenaline wearing off, the injuries catching up. She'd lost too much blood, taken too much damage, but she'd won. Hannah was safe. The threat was ended. That was enough. Her eyes closed. Darkness took her. The sound of vehicles jolted her back to consciousness. How much time had passed, seconds and minutes, she didn't know. Captain Rodriguez was there, 20 loyal soldiers, the cavalry arriving late but arriving nonetheless. He stared at the carnage, at the bodies scattered across the sand, at the blood-soaked woman being tended by a combat medic. What the hell happened here? Garrison looked up from where he knelt beside Maya. His voice was quiet, awed. One woman, that's what happened. One woman against 20 contractors. And she won. Rodriguez moved through the battlefield, counting bodies, finding evidence, contractor IDs, encrypted radios, serial numbers that matched stolen equipment. Everything pointed back to Major Foster. Everything proved the conspiracy. Maya had been right about all of it. In the TOC, Foster was trying to maintain control, spinning lies, coordinating his defense, preparing to bury the truth under military bureaucracy and classified stamps. Rodriguez kicked open the door, 6 armed soldiers at his back. Major Foster, you're under arrest. Treason, conspiracy, arms trafficking, murder. Foster went pale. You have no proof. We have 14 dead contractors with your fingerprints all over their paychecks. We have encrypted messages in your personal phone coordinating the attack. We have recorded conversations. He threw a sat phone on the desk, Kruger's phone, the one Maya had taken from his body. We have everything. Foster lunged for his sidearm. Rodriguez shot him in the leg. Not fatal, just enough to drop him screaming. You're going to prison, Major, for the rest of your life. And every day, I want you to remember that a woman you tried to kill is the one who brought you down. They dragged Foster away. His career, his freedom, his life, all over, destroyed by the ghost he'd tried to bury. The field hospital was chaos, wounded from the attacks at South and East Gates, contractors being stabilized for transport to prison hospitals, medics and doctors moving in controlled panic. Maya lay on a cot, unconscious, an IV in her arm, bandages covering her wounds, 47 stitches in her left arm, 12 in her scalp, 3 cracked ribs, grade 3 concussion. She'd been in surgery for 2 hours, stabilizing, repairing, keeping her alive. Hartley sat beside her bed. He'd been there since they brought her in, hadn't moved, hadn't eaten. Just watched the rise and fall of her breathing. His mind kept replaying the battle, her precision, her courage, her absolute refusal to quit. She reminded him so much of Jennifer. The same determination, the same strength. But Jennifer was dead, and Maya was alive. He would keep it that way. Her eyes fluttered open, focused slowly, found him. Sir, don't move, you're in bad shape. Did we win? Hartley smiled, a genuine smile. The first in 3 years. We won. Foster's arrested. The contractors are dead or captured. You saved the fob. Maya closed her eyes. Good. I know who you are. Really are. Called in favors. Got the real file. She tensed, ready to run, to disappear, to protect Hannah. Your secret's safe, Hartley said quickly. I made sure. Called JSOC. Explained the situation. You're protected. Maya's eyes opened again. Suspicious. Hoping. Why? Because you saved my life, saved my soldiers, and because you remind me of my daughter. He pulled out his wallet, showed her Jennifer's photo. She wanted to be like you. Strong, capable, a warrior. His voice cracked slightly. She died in a training accident. Parachute failure. I've blamed myself for 3 years, for not protecting her, for not being there. He looked at Maya, really looked at her. But tonight you let me protect you, let me fight beside you. And it helped. It helped me let go. Just a little. Maya's hand found his, squeezed weakly. I'm sorry about your daughter. I'm sorry about your mentor. Sarah Vance, I read that report too. They sat in silence, 2 broken people finding a moment of peace in each other's pain. What happens now, Maya asked. You disappear again. New assignment. Clean legend. Hannah stays safe. And you, Tahisham, I make sure anyone who asks about you gets very bored very quickly. Maya almost smiled. Thank you, James. You're welcome, Maya. The door opened. Garrison stepped in, hesitant, carrying something. Sir, ma'am, I wanted to give you this. He held out his ranger scroll, the certificate he'd earned in hell, the proof of who he used to be. You earned this more than I ever did. Maya shook her head. Keep it, but earn it again. Get help. Save your family. Garrison's eyes were wet. I called my ex-wife, asked for therapy, PTSD treatment. She said she'd give me one more chance. Because of you. You showed me what discipline looks like, what strength looks like. I forgot. But watching you fight, I remembered. Maya smiled. You had it all along. You just needed to remember. He nodded, snapped to attention, saluted. She returned it, despite the pain, despite the injuries, a salute between warriors who'd been through hell together. When he left, Hartley leaned back in his chair. You've changed him, given him hope. He saved my life tonight, blocked Foster's pursuit, chose trust over orders. You've changed all of us. Maya closed her eyes, exhausted. I just want to go home. Soon, rest now. She drifted off, into dreams of Hannah, of home, of a life after death. 3 days later, Maya returned to Echo 7, against medical advice, against Hartley's orders, against all common sense. But the inventory wasn't complete, and Maya Reeves always finished what she started. The depot was clean now, the bodies removed, the blood washed away, the damaged containers repaired. Everything back to the illusion of normal. Except for Container 9, still buckled, still scarred, a monument to what had happened here. Maya sat on an ammo crate, the same one she'd used that first day, her arm in a sling, her head still aching, but her mind clear. She had retrieved her M4 from the debris. Now she methodically disassembled it, laid each piece on a clean rag. With her one good hand, she began to clean. This was her meditation, her ritual, the way she made sense of chaos. Brush, solvent, care. Each tiny component given her full attention. Her father had taught her this. A clean weapon is a clear mind, Maya. Respect your tools and they'll save your life. He'd been right, as always. Mitchell and Diaz watched from a distance, standing guard, silent, reverent. They had witnessed mastery, had seen what true warriors looked like. They would never forget. Hartley arrived in a wheelchair. His leg was fine, but protocol demanded it after what they'd been through. He wheeled slowly to where Maya sat, said nothing, just watched. 10 minutes of silence, comfortable, shared. Finally, he spoke. Your report is due Friday. Maya looked up, smiled slightly. It's done, sir. Finished it this morning. She handed him a clipboard, blood-stained from the battle, but the handwriting was neat, precise, perfect. Every container cataloged, every item counted, every serial number recorded, complete. 6 hours early, Hartley reviewed it, found it flawless. You didn't have to come back here to work. Yes, I did. The job isn't done until it's done. He understood, nodded. I can't give you a medal, can't officially recognize what you did. I don't need medals. But unofficially, you're the finest soldier I've served with in 40 years. Maya's eyes met his. That means more than any medal, sir. Hartley reached into his pocket, pulled out a set of dog tags. Old, worn, carried for 17 years. These belong to Sarah Kane, the intel officer who saved my life in Desert Storm. I've kept them since '91. She'd want you to have them. Maya took them with reverence. Read the name, the blood type, the religion. One goes to another, Hartley said. The women who save us from the shadows. I'll honor her memory. You already do. Every day you survive. Hartley wheeled closer, handed her an envelope. Your new orders, Germany, logistics position, your legend holds. And Foster, military prison, life sentence. He'll never see daylight again. Good. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sun set over the desert, painting the sky in blood and gold. What will you do now? Maya asked. Retire, finally. Go home to my wife. Maybe learn to live with Jennifer's memory instead of drowning in it. He looked at Maya. You taught me that. That the dead don't need us to suffer. They need us to live. Your daughter would be proud of you. And your father would be proud of you. Maya felt tears sting her eyes, blinked them away. I hope so. Her encrypted phone buzzed. A message from Hannah. Big sis, heard you got promoted. So proud of you. When are you coming to visit? Maya smiled. Type back. Soon. Love you. The reply was immediate. Love you more. Stay safe. Hartley saw her smile, the first genuine warmth he had seen from her. Your sister? Yeah, she thinks I'm in Germany doing paperwork. That's the story we'll stick with. Maya stood, carefully, painfully, but she stood. Thank you, sir, for everything. Hartley extended his hand. She shook it, firm, equal. No, thank you, Sergeant Reeves. You saved us all. He saluted. She returned it. Then he wheeled away, leaving her alone with her containers and her memories and her ghosts. Maya picked up her clipboard, walked to container 12, the last one, the only one left uncounted. She opened it, started cataloging, making her neat, precise notes, finishing what she'd started 4 days and a lifetime ago, because that's what professionals did. They finished the job. No matter what, the sun set fully, darkness fell, the desert grew cold. Maya worked by chemical light, her handwriting perfect despite the injuries, despite the exhaustion, despite everything. At 0200 hours, she made the final entry, closed the last container, marked the inventory complete. 12 containers, 4,873 items, every single one accounted for. She walked back to her ammo crate, sat down, looked out at the western wire where she'd made her stand. 14 enemy dead, her team alive, mission complete, sister safe. It was enough. A vehicle approached. One of Hartley's staff, young lieutenant, nervous. "Sergeant Reeves, the colonel wanted me to give you this." He handed her a folder. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Official letterhead, commendation for exceptional service. Except the details were blank. No date, no description, no signature. A ghost medal for a ghost soldier. At the bottom, Hartley had written in pen, "History won't remember your name, but I will. Always. J.H." Maya folded the paper carefully, put it in her pocket. Next to Hannah's photo, the lieutenant shifted uncomfortably. "Also, sir, Colonel said to tell you, the ghost remains a ghost. Said you'd understand." Maya nodded. "I do. Tell him thank you." The lieutenant saluted, drove away. Alone again, Maya stood, shouldered her pack, took one last look at Echo 7, this place where she'd died and been reborn, where she'd fought and bled and remembered what she was. She whispered to the darkness, to the ghosts that lived there now, to Sarah and her father and Jennifer and all the others who'd walked this path before her. Until next time. Then she turned and walked away. Into the night, into the legend, into the shadows where Raven lived. The container stood silent behind her. The desert reclaimed its territory. The wind erased her footprints. By morning it would be like she'd never been there at all. Just another logistics sergeant who came and went. Nothing special, nothing to remember. Exactly as it should be. Exactly as she needed it to be. The ghost remained a ghost. And Hannah remained safe. In the end, that was all that mattered. 3 months later, a kindergarten class in San Diego learned about soldiers. About the men and women who served in faraway places. Who sacrificed so others could be safe. Hannah Reeves told her students about her big sister, the one who worked in Germany, who counted supplies and signed forms and did the boring but important work that kept soldiers fed and armed and ready. A hero, she said, not because she carried a gun or won medals, but because she served, because she sacrificed, because she chose duty over comfort every single day. The children drew pictures, soldiers in tan uniforms, standing guard, protecting people. Hannah sent them to her sister, via encrypted email, to a woman who officially didn't exist. Maya received them in a logistics office in Ramstein, Germany. Her new cover, her new life. Same mission, same ghost. She pinned the drawings on her wall, looked at them when the nightmares came, when the memories of Echo 7 threatened to drown her. And she remembered why she did this, why she stayed dead, why she walked in shadows. For that classroom full of children who would never know her name. For Hannah, who thought her sister was boring. For all the people who slept safe because ghosts like her stood watch. It was enough. It had to be enough. Because Raven didn't do this for glory, for recognition, for gratitude. She did it because someone had to. Because the world needed protectors who asked nothing in return. And because 3 years ago, dying in Vienna, Sarah Vance had whispered, "Protect your sister. Stay dead. Keep fighting." Maya had kept that promise, would keep it until the day she really did die. Somewhere in Virginia, in Arlington National Cemetery, a headstone bore her name. Sergeant Maya Reeves, killed in action. Vienna, 2006, age 26. The grave was empty. The death was a lie, but the sacrifice was real, and that was the truth that mattered. The ghost remained a ghost. The raven flew on, And somewhere in the shadows, always watching, always ready, always faithful, she stood guard for Hannah, for Hartley, for all the people who deserved to sleep safely in their beds. That was her mission. That was her curse. That was her honor. And she would carry it until the very end.